Welcome into another edition of Pete's Pigskin Preview presented by RiverLand Roofing. I'm Neal McCready, joined as always by MPW Digital football expert Pete DeWeese, getting you ready for a big SEC showdown with all sorts of college football playoff ramifications. It is 8th ranked Ole Miss and 13th ranked Oklahoma in Norman, Oklahoma. The game at 11 a.m. Central Daylight Time, weather permitting. There is a lot of weather expected. You never know these days whether that means delays or whatnot, but scheduled for 11 a.m. on ABC. Ole Miss now 6-1, 3-1 in the SEC after a 43-35 loss at Georgia last weekend. We'll talk about that in a moment with Pete. Oklahoma is 6-1, 2-1 in the SEC. They're finished with the non-conference portion of their schedule, and they've got a pretty daunting SEC slate in front of them, starting with the Rebels on Saturday morning. So we'll get to all that in just a moment. First, I'll tell you that we're brought to you each and every week here on Pete's Pigskin Preview by RiverLand Roofing. When it comes to durable, high-performance roofing, RiverLand stands above the rest as a licensed, insured, and GAF Master Elite certified roof replacement contractor with more than 60 years of combined experience. RiverLand specializes in roof repairs, replacements, and maintenance for both residential and commercial properties. RiverLand Roofing combines expert craftsmanship with cutting-edge roofing technology to ensure long-lasting protection for your home or business. Their team of manufacturer-trained specialists delivers top-tier service while staying within your budget. Whether you need a minor roof repair or a complete roof replacement, RiverLand provides customized solutions tailored to your needs. To learn more, call RiverLand at 662-644-4297 or visit their website at riverlandroofing.com. And please make sure that you tell them about MPW Digital, hearing about them on MPW Digital when you talk to the people at RiverLand Roofing. Pete, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. We'll get to Oklahoma in a minute. We'll talk a little bit about Oklahoma's offense, John Mateer and company going up against Ole Miss's defense. But I think you and I in our brief little pre-show meeting agreed that the interesting part of this game, and maybe the part of this game that gets things decided, is a Ole Miss offense, Lane Kiffin, Charlie Weiss and company going up against Brent Venables and a defense that Lane Kiffin has raved about all week, frankly, in a way that he doesn't usually completely rave about. He raves about the Sooners, their front, their schemes, their seeming ability to know what's coming before it comes. So we'll talk about all of those things in a minute. First, I do want to touch on the Georgia game. You and I did a preview on it last week, obviously, and Ole Miss. It's crazy. One of the weird games. Ole Miss, their first 5 possessions, which stretched into the fourth quarter, 5 possessions, 5 touchdowns. That's about as efficient as you can get. Defensively, they were the opposite of that. Georgia had, basically, if you don't count the kneel down possession, and you shouldn't, Georgia had 8 possessions, and they had 5 touchdowns and 3 field goals. So you can do the math on how that works. Georgia ends up winning 43-35. Ole Miss led 35-26 going into the fourth quarter. 9-point lead. Had a play late in the third quarter that Lane Kiffin has had a hard time not talking about this week, where Georgia had a 4th and 1 around midfield, and it looked like it had been stopped at the line of scrimmage, but the ball carrier was able to keep his feet moving, ended up lunging forward for about a 2-3 yard gain and a first down. Georgia went on to score on that possession, and you know the rest. What stuck out to you from Ole Miss and Georgia in Athens, Pete?
We talked about it last week. We felt it was going to come down to the Ole Miss defense and how they could perform. And one of the things we talked about was they had kind of settled into being able to be a 2-high team, play to keep 2 safeties back, at least per pre-snap, and play a lot more zone coverage and not have to be as aggressive. And so Georgia came out and challenged that, which is, again, something we talked about, something that we kind of anticipated. And ultimately the thing that stood out to me is efficient as Ole Miss was through their first 5 drives. You finish the game, Georgia has 84 plays, Ole Miss has 64 plays. And 64 plays for the Ole Miss offense doesn't happen very often. Now, some of that is, listen, I mean, you open the third quarter with a 1 or 2 plays drive with the long touchdown on the short throw makes a guy miss. And yeah, that's going to skew it somewhat. But the bottom line is you get into the last 10, 11 minutes of the game and Ole Miss just couldn't consistently produce on offense. And the result was that Georgia, on the other hand, started to really lean on things. Gunnar Stockton was surgical, 26, 31. And some of that was due in part to poor play by the Ole Miss defense, and some of it was the kid was just absolutely on. And the reality is this about Gunnar Stockton: when you look at their season at this point, in the Tennessee game, which is a big game for them, in the Ole Miss game, he was really, really good in both of those games, and he wasn't exactly bad against Alabama, and so. He's been productive. It was probably his most efficient and productive game as a passer this season. But ultimately, I mean, to me, as impressive as that was in his 4 touchdown performance, some of that he gets credit. Period. I would not take anything away from that level of performance. In the execution by Stockton and the guys around him, but Ole Miss defense flat out they busted some. And it happens, but it happened too often for him. I thought that really, though, when you look at it, 49 rush attempts for 232 yards, and it only scored 1 rushing touchdown. But when they needed to, 232 rushing yards on 49 attempts, that keeps an Ole Miss offense that is explosive off the field. And the fact that Ole Miss had so few possessions, and in particular in the second half, that in so many ways is the story of the game. And for any and all credit that the Georgia defense is owed, I think that the role of that offensive line and tight ends and that offense in general, and big tip of the cap to Mike Bobo, is they in the second half they kept that Ole Miss offense off the field for the most part.
Yeah, I thought you just nailed it. I thought one of the big things was 34 first downs. Mm-hmm. That is moving the chains. That is eating clock. That is keeping an offense off the field. And in the first half, and look, football far better than I do, but in the first half, it really felt like Georgia's defense was swimming a little. They were trying to figure out what to do. Hey, can we just get to the intermission here? Can we fix some things? That they're known as a second half team. And in the first half, it felt like they were on the ropes. And if Ole Miss just could have gotten a couple of stops and gotten the ball back, instead of it being 21-20 at the half, it may have been 31-14 at the half, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Could have been something completely different. And it felt like, to me, that was it was kind of the baseball equivalent, Pete, of when you have a team and you load the bases in the second inning and you score 1 run, and you load the bases in the third inning and you don't score, and you load the bases in the fourth inning and you score 1 run. Yeah, you have 2 runs and maybe you have a 2-0 lead going to the fifth, but there's that thing in the back of your mind of this thing should be 9-0. And
I do. I do think that's a good analogy. I mean, you leave runners stranded in a baseball game, it's always going to come back to bite you at a certain point. And even though 5 for 5 on the first 5 possessions, Ole Miss in this game, they left runners stranded. And some of that was about the defense. Yeah. And some of it was about the offense. But yeah, I mean, you're right. 34 first downs to 21. I mean, that's a hell of a discrepancy.
It's hard to win a game like that, right?
It's extremely difficult to win a game like that. Because it's signs of efficiency. I mean, you don't give up 500 yards of offense and 34 first downs and have much opportunity to be successful. Yet there was Ole Miss 8 points away from a victory. Yeah, it's kind of a weird thing, real honestly, when you look at the statistics.
I mean, honestly, if I told you as a football coach, hey, Your team is going to give up 520 yards of offense. You're going to give up 34 first downs. You're going to have a 9-point lead going to the fourth quarter. You're going to think, what in the hell?
No, I'm going to be extremely. I'm going to assume that we return some kickoffs or punts or block to punt. I mean, I almost, I don't know how else I would rationalize that in my head.
I think that's the part where a lot of people have been like, man, Keifin needs to get over this. I think the part that's hard for him to get over is that you were that prepared and that surgical offensively for that long, and that's a game that if you'll just take care of your business a little bit defensively, you win, and then you're in a totally different boat. I understand why he's had a hard time sort of letting it go, cleansing it, and moving on to Oklahoma, because you'd almost rather just get pounded.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think one thing you have to give Lane credit for, whether you love him or hate him, in recent years in particular, is he has openly revealed the fact that no matter what we get paid or what our job title is, we're all human, and coaches love to get up there and talk about, hey, you put it to bed and you move on to the next one. But that's not always easy to do. And sometimes they do stick with you. And honestly, sometimes it can be a good thing. Sometimes it obviously isn't. I wonder, and I'm not stamping this or I wouldn't call Vegas and place a bet, but did he like that matchup more than the one this week? And he knew he had to, or really probably needed to take one of the two. So is he hung up on it because he feels like that was his best opportunity? And the way he's talked about this Oklahoma team this week and the way their defense shows up on film, maybe that's the case, right? It's also, we know what his approach was in his early matchups with Saban when Saban was still at Alabama. That relationship made the game mean more to him. Well, Saban's gone. Who's the next guy with that relationship? It's Kirby, right? It's a big one for him.
Yes.
And so I think in a lot of ways, because relationships, as of late in particular in Lane Kiffin's life, relationships really seem to matter, to some degree from what we see publicly anyway. So I think from the competitive relationship that all coaches or all good coaches have, you want to go beat your guy, your buddy. And so, I think that probably plays a role too, but yeah, it's what he says in the press conference versus what the messaging is to the team and how it's kind of being handled in the building. Those are things that I'm always curious about when you see responses, whether it's the way Keifin responded this week or it's the way that certain guys, that they're crushed and they'll walk into a press conference and say, that one's over, we're not talking about it. Well, yeah, you are. You may not want to talk about it to the reporters, but you're talking about it,
Yeah.
So yeah, that's one. And as I read your article earlier in the week of what he said versus what he might mean, and you kept saying it like he's stuck on it. He's not over this one yet. I understood it, and I think you were spot on that. The question is, does that affect the team this week and moving forward?
I think you're going to take a look at some of what happened in Athens and then turn the page to OU. The floor is yours. I think I've shared the screen.
Yeah, let's find out. Yeah, it appears so. Okay. So I don't want to spend a ton of time talking about the game, but there were a couple things that that did kind of stand out to me. And we talk about leaving runners on base, and the analogy that you used earlier, we're late in the football game now. We are early, and if I run it all the way back, we're 13 minutes left in this football game almost.
Oh, okay. I know the play that's coming.
Ole Miss with a 2-point lead. Georgia has just scored. There's a little bit of momentum on their side. And Ole Miss, 25-yard line coming out, and they're trying right now to breathe life back into the fan base, life back into the sideline. And so they line up in this set. And honestly, they get to a play that they'd run earlier in the game. They just do it with a completely different presentation and window dressing. Earlier in the game, they'd lined up one of their receivers. I don't remember if it was Watkins or if it was Deuce. I don't remember who it was, but they lined one of their receivers up in the backfield and they snuck him out into a corner route and they hit it for a big game. Well, here, instead of having a receiver, a tight end to the right with an extra receiver in the backfield, they just line up differently. They actually present two tight ends. They got DeQuan Wright, and I believe it's Luke Haas on the right side with one receiver split out wide. They're going to bring a guy in motion to fake the run game to. And what they're going to do is they are going to try to send one tight end wide. They're going to try to clear things out vertically, and they're going to try to sneak right on this corner route into that voided space that you've just cleared out. It's a great design. It's a scheme that a lot of teams are using at the college and professional level right now. And it's probably been done like this before, but it's the first time I've seen it from this particular set. So I'm just going to let it play one time through, and we'll go back and look at it. But there's the motion. They're going to fake the sweep to Alexander right there, and there goes DeQuan Wright. And when you watch it from the end zone angle, the run action, and I lied, it's not Haas as the other tight end, as
Ruckler.
85 works wide and Alexander comes across, DeQuan Wright is just going to let the defense flow with it, and he is going to get right behind them, and he is going to be wide open. And I was actually talking about this. Obviously I live around Georgia fans. My daughter's, she didn't get her allowance this week. We had to have that conversation on Sunday. But I was talking to another coach who's a big Georgia fan on Sunday. We were messaging back and forth, and he said the quarterback didn't look the same at some point in the game. And
I led my column with this play, Pete.
I read it and I saw that. When Chambliss scored the rushing touchdown on Ole Miss's maybe previous score, he kind of got up and he kind of flexed and moved a little bit. And I was like, that almost looked awkward, right? And I'm not saying the kid's hurt. I have no basis or foundation from that, but he was not as crisp after that moment as he was, and this is such a big one. You get the play action fake, there goes Wright, he releases downfield, and you pause it right now. He is wide open. If this ball is out in front of him, Ole Miss starts the drive with an explosive play. They are down the field, crossing the 50, and the ball is just at the feet. And I went back and I watched this thing on slow motion 10 times. Like, there's nobody that tipped it. There was nobody. It just, his feet aren't in the ground, and he just does not throw a good ball here.
It's a 30-yard gain if the corner makes the tackle. Otherwise, it might be a 50-yard gain.
It's a big
he might
play.
score.
It is absolutely a massive play.
I had it on my binoculars, and as he got open, I was like, "Oh, there he is!" And then,
wide open.
I kept saying, "Where's the ball?" And then, it was wild. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. So they come back the very next play. Ole Miss tries to throw it again, tries to kind of throw something underneath. It gets batted down by a defensive tackle. Okay. So now it's third down. Stadium is rocking. Everybody feels this could be a big momentum changing moment in the game. So Ole Miss drops back to pass again on 3rd and 10. They're going to motion Caden Lee in, and they are going to work a concept right here that they like. They're going to bring one guy underneath from the single receiver side, is going to go underneath, and he's going to try to draw everyone with him. To the 3 receiver side, Caden Lee is going to work a crossing route. If he has a high probability of winning the one-on-one matchup. The kid does it all the time. The question is there going to be anybody underneath that can take away the throw? If so, they're going to come back, and they've got DeQuan Wright on another in-breaking route. Now, one thing that happened late in this game is Glenn Schumann and Kirby Spark said, we're going to get in their face, we're going to challenge their receivers, and we're going to get more aggressive. If they're going to find holes in our zone, we're not going to let them find those holes because we are going to attack. And that was really the big shift to me in the second half from this Georgia defense. And you will see here, the third down, he's not going to be able to get the throw to Caden Lee because the linebacker does a good job dropping underneath. It's a very tight window. But the throw to DeQuan Wright is going to be there. But the pressure, and if you just run it from the beginning, Georgia does a good job with their twist here. The pressure late right there ends up causing him to be off balance. If you run this from the end zone copy, You can see it a little bit as he goes through his progression. He's looking right now, do I have Caden? And he's watching number 20. 20 is going to tell him, do I have a chance? So 20 bails out right now. He knows I don't have Caden. His eyes are now going to right. And if he can stick his foot in the ground, Daquan Wright is going to come open right in front of him for a possible throw and catch to convert for the first down. But Georgia's willingness to get more aggressive in their pass rush. And that's one of the things we talked about last week too, is going into the season, Georgia had less sacks than Ole Miss defense did, or going into last week. And, in this game, in this second half, they've been worried, I think, about their secondary quite a bit this season. In the second half, they just said they can't be any worse. And so they started to dial it up and get aggressive, and they were able to get some pressure on Chambliss, and I really think it made a difference. Ole Miss had other opportunities. They had another drive after that, and ultimately they just couldn't really get things off the ground. So some important misses, and if you want to borrow the analogy again, just absolutely left a runner. I mean, you're talking about a stand-up triple, right, on the first play of the drive, and instead you just whiff.
You had bases loaded, one out, and he threw you a fastball down the middle, and you missed it.
And you missed it. Absolutely. And it just came at the absolute worst time. So I really just want to focus on 3 plays, all 3 scoring plays from the Georgia offense. And it was Mike Bobo, and I said this on social media at one point during the game on Saturday, is you don't have to be pleased with the way the Ole Miss defense played. But you have to give some credit to Mike Bobo because he did some things from a motion standpoint that really confused the Ole Miss defense and caused some problems. So here, okay, and we talked about it, when 32 is in the backfield, high probability of screen or some type of a pass to him. So Ole Miss is playing the odds. They recognize the personnel. They understand what's going on right here. Everybody's thinking screen. They're going to take one of their best, most explosive players, the guy that we said they love to throw screens to, number 1. They've already thrown him a couple of screens in this game. They're going to motion him out of the backfield. Okay? They are giving you a look that makes you think we are going to throw the bubble screen out here to one of our most explosive players. Everything about the formation grouping, from the personnel, the motion, everything screams screen, screen, screen. Well, when the motion happens, you can see the Ole Miss safety trying to communicate with the nickel. He is telling that nickel, you go take him, I've got your guy. Okay? But as it happens, they're going to take the outside receiver and they're going to try to run him to create traffic inside. Lawson Lucky, the tight end, kid that I coached against when he was in high school, had a career day for Georgia, obviously, on Saturday. He's going to kind of delay and set up and act like he's blocking and then release late to the corner route right there. Again, it's a concept that a lot of people carry. It's just well executed right here, and it's poor communication. From the top, you see the Ole Miss safety. He communicates it, tries to push the nickel down. When he doesn't see the nickel move immediately, he thinks, oh, crap, he's not doing his job. I got to go do it for him. So they both end up jumping the screen, and there goes Lucky, wide open, ends up uncovered in the end zone. Doesn't even have to be a great throw by Gunnar Stockton. Just needs to be in the area. It is. Lucky makes the adjustment, and it's an easy touchdown. So I would tell you that in the film room, the conversation was, once you pass him off, he should have been yours, and you should have locked onto him. But I can tell you that my guess is also that he's telling you, when I told his butt to go and he didn't go, I thought I had to go do his job for him. Or my eyes got bad and I truly bought in on the screen, and it just absolutely left a guy wide open. Come down to another scoring play later in the game. This is one that somebody had said something on social media, I think to you or responding to you, and I actually responded. It is actually a great play call, and Ole Miss is in the perfect position.
Is this where Prince Wellman just whiffs?
Just whiffs.
Yeah.
So this is a scheme that you kind of first saw out of Georgia several years ago when Brock Bowers was an underclassman. They ran this in the college football national championship game or in the playoff game, and it kind of caused a stir in coaching circles, social media wise, because it was just a nice presentation. So they're actually in an unbalanced set. This is your center. This is your right guard. This is your right tackle. They've actually taken the left tackle, and he's lined up normally where your tight end would be. So as a result, your left guard is intact, but now this is a tight end where your offensive tackle traditionally would be. So if I've just skipped to the end zone copy, from a defensive perspective, if you cut the field in half at the center, you have 3 offensive linemen, which means you have an extra gap to the left of the defense. In addition to that, you have 2 receivers to your left. You, by math, have to dedicate bodies to the left side of the field. You have the tight end here. You have 1 receiver out to the defense's right, okay? What they're going to do is they're going to work a zone scheme to the defense's left, and they're going to take this tight end and send him to the flat. Somebody's got to be responsible for him. If this safety goes with him, then the quarterback is either going to hand it off or run it himself. Typically, you see it as a handoff. If this safety does not expand with that tight end, they're going to pull up and throw the ball to the tight end. So what Ole Miss is going to do, they have kicked their front over. They've adjusted the front, and what they're going to do is they're going to blitz essentially 2 guys off of this weak side, and they're man-to-man here on the tight end. So that means he's forced into a handoff situation. Now, Amami Allen is the quarterback player. If Gunnar Stockton pulls this ball, he is responsible for making the play. So he is a little bit in a bind from a schematic standpoint. But as it develops, and you see as the tight end releases, the guard works here to the defensive lineman, free shot on the tailback, free shot here, and Ole Miss just misses. There it is right there. Gunnar, the 30 does his job. He's got the tailback. The defensive end has to be responsible for the quarterback, and you typically are going to teach rush to the upfield shoulder. You do not want him getting outside of you. He goes to the upfield shoulder, but when he redirects, he starts in line on an angle and then redirects to get vertical and force the ball back inside, and he just works too far vertical, and Gunnar does a great job of getting underneath him. Now, there's a lot of just really little things. If this were a traditional inside zone, these combos are working more vertical, which means Gunnar does not, he has to hit it wider. Because it is a wide zone and now everything is moving horizontally instead of vertically, this gap moves all the way to here. Now you just increase the amount of space that you're asking the defensive end to have to contain. It's the Ole Miss checked to this. I without a doubt feel like this was part of the game plan. They saw the formation. They checked to an automatic call. It is 100% the perfect call right there. It's 100% right now. If you freeze this play, you say go Rebs, right? Mm-hmm. But there's the horizontal stretch by the offensive line. Defensive end gets too far upfield, and then Gunnar Stockton is a better athlete than some people want to give him credit for. Last one here, and this was the kind of the worst one to me, quite honestly. This was, a late touchdown by Georgia. They're going to bring one of their receivers in motion, and they are going to go a little cheap play action fake, and the goal is to pull up and try to throw the slant right there to the receiver. Now, he sees when the motion starts, the safety starting to go with him, and he doesn't need him to trail all the way across. He just needs him to come get in the box, which is what happens. But when Stockton turns around right there and he sees the safety underneath, he doesn't panic. He realizes at that point there is nobody outside on my tailback. What should have happened, somebody, and if I had to guess based on the coverage structure, so they're playing man-to-man. The corner is responsible for number one. Safety is responsible for number two. As number two motions away and you pass it off, you're responsible for the new number two. In this case, that's coming from the backfield. I think he gets caught up in the action of what's going on right there.
He
sees the tailback,
yeah,
but he allows himself to get in no man's land, and he just hesitates way too much. Again, very, very heads up play by Gunnar Stockton. It's, not that it's just out of the norm. I mean, he knows what his progressions are, but it's a heads up play to realize he's uncovered, to trust it, and just absolutely flip it out there. So just, listen, that's 3 plays. 2 of them, poor communication on the back end that result in touchdowns, not responding to motion appropriately. And 1, an example of Ole Miss being in the absolute perfect call and just flat out not executing.
Yeah.
So, we talked about it a little bit pre-show. The Oklahoma offense is good. When Mateer is on, they are on. He obviously has a good relationship with his offensive coordinator. They've been together prior to coming to Oklahoma. They were together at Washington State. So the coordinator has a good feel for what Mateer is most comfortable with. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time watching that offense today, but what I can tell Ole Miss fans as they're preparing to watch this game, you will see a lot of similarities between this Ole Miss offense and the Washington State offense. The Oklahoma offense. I still think of Arbuckle, I guess, as being a Cougar, but I don't think that the Oklahoma offense is vertically minded as Ole Miss. They don't necessarily take as many shots down the field as Ole Miss does. But from the way that they try to run the football, from their use of motion, from their RPO game, to the way that they use the quarterback in the run game, there's a ton of similarities between the 2 systems, and some of it is going to feel very familiar to it. What I think they probably do the best job of is they do a great job of identifying how you want to defend the run game, and they are not afraid to be patient in the run game. And if you give them an opportunity to run the football, they're going to take it. And as soon as you start to crowd and overpopulate the run box, they are going to take their RPO game, or they're going to use their quarterback run game to try and find an advantage. Ole Miss is obviously, without a doubt, going to have to play better than they did in Athens. And that's honestly part of the reason I felt like I didn't need to show a ton of that offense, because Ole Miss is going to have to play better. And so how Pete Golding responds to that, I feel like some of the things we've heard Keifin say over the course of the week, you get the feel that they're going to have to be more aggressive. Will it be from the get-go? Will it be selective? I don't have that answer, right? But I do think that Ole Miss is going to have to be a little bit more selective. Oklahoma will do what Georgia did. Georgia will willingly play with 2, sometimes even 3 tight ends on the field. Oklahoma will do the same, but that's not necessarily who they want to be. That's not really their identity. It's going to be a little bit more closely matched to the Ole Miss offense, who typically plays with 1 tight end, or even the LSU offense if they used Nussmeier as a runner, which is not necessarily something that we see LSU do. But there's a lot more similarity. At the end of the day, the defense for Oklahoma is what has them where they are. That they're a phenomenal front. Venables has been known for a long time, obviously, for being very, very, very good defense coordinator. And I've seen quotes this week where he's talked about how the current defensive staff he's on is the best he's ever been with, because they're an elite group of teachers, and you see it in the way that their kids play. And so I watched 3 films. I watched the Auburn game because Auburn realistically had a chance to beat this team, and I don't think that much of Auburn, particularly the Auburn offense. I watched the South Carolina game. South Carolina, far from being a dominant offense. I think there's pitchforks and some torches outside Willie Bryce right now for the offensive coordinator.
It's not been a great week to be Mike Shula.
It has not been a great week at all. But then I also watched the Texas game, and I wanted to see in those 3 games. And early in the season, I watched live when they played Michigan. I watched a lot of that game. So I wasn't cold to the defense coming into the game. But I watched 3 full tapes and really had some takeaways primarily from the Oklahoma South Carolina game and the Oklahoma Auburn game. And so that's kind of where I'm going to going to place some of my focus and just point out a few things to you to be aware of. Okay. One thing about a Brent Venables defense is you are going to see a lot of multiple looks at every level of the defense. They base out of a traditional kind of 4-2-5 structure with 4 down linemen, 2 linebackers, 5 defensive backs, but they're versatile and will sometimes end up in a 3-4. Sometimes they will end up in a 3-3 or 3-5 kind of stack structure. They will show you one thing, they will end up in something else. And he probably does as good of a job as anybody in college football of making you prepare and making you really be dialed in as far as what you're going to see and the looks that you're going to get. I think one thing that you see a lot in modern defenses is you see a lot of looks where linebackers walk up to the line of scrimmage, and sometimes they come and sometimes they don't. And there's elements of that certainly in this Oklahoma defense. They're no different than anybody else in that. But one of the things that I think they do a great job of that a lot of teams maybe don't do as good of a job of these days is they blitz from depth. Their linebackers will show a base alignment, and they do a great job in their preparation. And as soon as that ball is snapped, they are downhill and they are rolling. Your running back and your offensive line are going to have to be great in pass protection this week. I think that there is some real first-round talent on the Georgia defensive front. I think there's some guys that are going to be big-time players, and they're going to go on and be the next Georgia Bulldogs in the NFL. This Oklahoma defensive line, to me, is more explosive than the Georgia defensive line. And Venables uses a lot of movement in the front to take advantage of that athleticism and the explosiveness that they have in their front. So this is an example. You know, one thing, and I almost really showed a couple of plays before this, how South Carolina got down this far, and it was a 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, and everybody got packed in there, and Oklahoma took a big risk, and there was nobody deep, and they just split them right down the middle for a big gain and got down inside the red zone. But I really, as I just continued to watch and took notes, I kind of went back and marked up this play and actually the one after it, because, again, I think they do such a good job of timing up blitzes and bringing them from depth, and a lot of times right into the teeth of the concept. And maybe that's something about what Lane said earlier this week, and that is something I'm going to kind of talk about here in a minute. But if you'll put your eyes here on this linebacker, you will see they do a great job of just trying to disguise it, and as soon as the ball snapped, downhill right now with a lot of speed. If you are not expecting the blitz, and as an offensive lineman, if your eyes are down and you get so invested in your combo that you don't see the movement at the second level, these guys play at such a tempo and with such aggression at the second level that they will run through and make plays on you before you even know that they're there. And that popped up time and time again on film. Now, I 100% believe this is a blitz. I don't know if this linebacker is, but you can see similarly, as soon as he gets his read, he is downhill and they are attacking. The very next play, you get a similar look. Now, instead of being compact, South Carolina tries to spread everybody out. Instead of walking up and showing blitz early, he's going to come from depth again. He's going to show wide like he's part of the coverage structure. And then as soon as the snapped, they let the coverage or let the front kind of sort itself out, and then he's going to go take his gap right now. Now, we talk about the explosive nature of this defensive front, and I'm gonna actually skip to the end zone copy so we can see it. So what you have here, you have a wide rusher, an outside shade on the guard, which we call a 3 technique, and you have a head up 0. You are trying to influence the way that the offensive line is going to slide their protection. The nose is going to slant away here, and he is going to try to pull the center with him. The 3 technique is going to slant into A gap and now get a one-on-one with this guard if they can effectively pull the center away. If that guard stays outside, you're potentially one-on-one right here, either free or on the center. If the guard chases the center, there's nobody to take the linebacker that is coming from depth right there. So you can see as soon as the ball snapped, there's the stunt right there, and 78 just oversets. That right foot, he just gets a little bit too wide. He has no choice but to chase back inside. The center is late, and we talked about this some last week with the Ole Miss offense. There have been some issues in the Washington State game about the quarterback probably not sliding his protection the right way. Everything about this look to me, if you're going to be a half-man, half-slide team, says that you should slide to the right, you isolate here, you isolate there. If you slide your protection that way, you still have to execute, but your numbers are sound. Here, they work in a different structure. The center seems to slide the other way. It's almost like they're trying to operate in like a big-on-big situation just so they can get the running back out, and it clearly does not work in their favor. A little bit later in the game, okay, they're going to come out. South Carolina's going to come out here in a run set. They're going to start off presenting the traditional odd look, and then they're going to come down, and they are getting in the old 85 Buddy Ryan Chicago Bears. This version of a Bear defense is not one that you see all that often anymore, in my opinion, but that is straight up what this is. So what makes this defense so difficult? And so here they go. They're going to stem right now. So you have a head up on the center. You have two B-gap players. You have a wide rusher. And then now you have somebody in both the C and the D gap. They're going to play man-to-man behind it. So right now they have maxed out and essentially controlled every gap on the field offensively. So what's going to happen right here, because of this front structure in this rundown, it is hard to effectively, typically you want to get double teams and work back to the backside linebacker. They're unable to get that because of the 2-3 techniques. With the guard pulling, which is what's about to happen, the center is forced to go back on this 3 technique. 78 is forced to go down on the nose. 51 is forced to go down on this play side 3 technique. That means there is nobody to account for this backer. Now, if you had one defender out wide, you might send number 5 back and account for him that way. But once they add this extra guy, now he has to go arc because somebody has to lead for the ball carrier when they run this power read scheme. The quarterback is going to read the C-gap defender. If this defender's upfield, the quarterback's going to pull it himself. If this defender is inside, he's going to hand it. Well, they're well coached. They understand their assignment. They're schooled. So when they get this action, when 51 blocks down and 52 pulls, you're going to see this defender attack it and knock the crap out of it. That's going to force the ball to go out wide. Well, let's do some math. 1 blocker, 2 blocker, 1, 2, 3, and there might even be a corner out there. Entirely outnumbered. Okay? Again, is it luck of the draw? Is it a great call? Do they have the signal? I don't know. Okay, but I can tell you this is good scheme, and it is a well-coached defense right there. So he ends up pulling it right there, but he pulls it, and there's the unblocked defender sitting in the hole, forces him wide to somebody else. It is a no-win situation right there for the South Carolina offense. Venables in the defense 100% had their number. Okay. Now we talk about some of the different looks. I've shown you some of the ones up front. Now let's talk about some of the different looks on the back end right here. Okay. They are actually going to sit here and they're going to work what's called a trap coverage. So this corner is showing like he's playing a deeper coverage alignment, like a quarters type coverage. He is actually going to trap and jump anything in the flat. If his guy runs a hitch, he's sitting on top of it. If anybody else, like this tight end, comes to the flat, he's going to jump it right now. That means on the snap of the ball, somebody's got to be responsible for the vertical. So this safety is going to have to haul butt to get there. Now, they can play essentially the same coverage on the other side, but one thing that makes them so difficult is how they will play split field coverages. So here, they're going to invert it on the opposite side. He's going to come down and be the flat player. He's going to be the deep half player. They're going to blitz from the inside, and they're going to use this guy to replace a linebacker in the blitz. So from a quarterback standpoint, you're essentially seeing an umbrella of 5 defensive backs showing that they could be deep defenders when the reality is 3 of them are ready to come and take anything underneath that you throw right now. Now, they only rush 4. They showed the potential of rushing 5. They only rush 4. So they end up with 7 guys in coverage. If you're wrong as a quarterback, if the protection holds up, there are holes. Every zone has holes. And if the protection holds up.
But look at the pressure that the 4 are putting on. I mean, it's not like they're in his face, but they're closing that pocket down.
They are squeezing that pocket. And they squeeze it in a heartbeat. Their power and speed on the inside helps their speed rushers on the outside so much.
I mean, Lane talked about
so hard.
Lane talked about how twitchy they are on the outside, and if
Extremely.
if you're listening to this in podcast form, God bless you. You don't see it. If you're watching it, you see this. I mean, is it 52 on the? I mean, he's so fast that he's almost offside. 32.
Hey, I 32. I thought he was offsides,
Yeah.
honestly. But the reality is he takes the left tackle, and it is a beautiful bull rush, and he plants him in the backfield. Their quarterback has nowhere to go because the interior players have gotten enough push. He can't step up in the pocket.
And this is a first-round pick at quarterback here in Lenore Sellers. I mean, the NFL loves him.
And I mean, listen, that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah, I know.
But from a prototype standpoint, and he absolutely fits that bill, and they're just squeezing the pocket on him and controlling him right there. And one guy rarely brings him down. I mean, that's the reality. But he's a different body type than Trinidad Chambliss. So another
real quick timeout. What do you think of Sellers? And I'm asking for a reason because I think his name comes up some this winter.
Yeah, I think he's a hard player to judge in part because it's hard to judge his development.
Yeah.
Mike Shula has called and won in more ball games than me, and he makes a hell of a lot more money than me. And if we both submit our resume, he's much more likely to get a call at any level. But they have not been a fluid system. They have not been an effective offense. So to me, it's kind of like, and I think it's probably the most obvious comparison, but to me, it's like the Richardson comparison from Florida, right? He was feast or famine. Every marker you could indicate from a combine standpoint is there. It's how can he develop? And we saw him get to the NFL, and we saw him start to have some success. Now, he had issues staying healthy.
Yeah.
Right? But we saw him start to have some success, and there were signs of development. And maybe that ceiling hit a little bit before they wanted to. And right now, I don't fully know what that future looks like for him. But I think that this kid's a little bit more the same way.
There's some rumblings that he's getting some advice to get in the portal as opposed to getting in the draft and going someplace where he can be better developed.
I mean, in today's college football, where he's going to go be paid like a rookie contract if he is not a first-round draft pick, why the hell not? Because all he's going to do is improve his draft status or get paid and end up drafted somewhere in a similar slot. In my opinion.
Yep. I didn't mean to turn it into the Lenore Sellers.
No. It's all good. And look, we're going to watch him here. Okay. We're going to watch them bring another zone blitz right here. And it's one of those things that if you give him time, there's going to be some windows in the zone. So they're going to show right here this 2-high look, and they're going to end up in a 1-high cover 3 structure. Now, right here, bottom line is they get beat off the snap. Sellers is at the top of his drop, and he's having to get off platform. If he can set up in the pocket, he's going to work inside. He is either going to be open or he's going to clear out this safety, and then they are going to dig underneath with this outside player, and there is a massive hole in the middle of the zone. There's always windows. It's how can you find them? Can you get to them? And here, the pressure does not allow them to get to them. This is 100% an explosive play right there. That's where that ball is designed to go. It is 100% wide open, but the quarterback is running for his life. Again, you go to the end zone copy. They're going to cover the center up. It's an odd front. Okay, they are going to take and they are going to twist and move these defensive linemen. So here, this 56 is going to come all the way across. They're going to bring 10 behind, and they're going to create and add an extra rusher. And then what they're doing here is 11's responsibility is he's going to add late. He's essentially, don't think of him as a spy. Think of him as a late add-on once he realizes it is pass. So he's thinking running back right there, run, run, run. It's not run. It's zone coverage. I have help out wide. I don't got to run with that dude. So now I can go add on and collapse his pocket for the quarterback, and that's exactly what happens. Now, again, dude's an athlete. He shakes loose, turns an absolutely disastrous play into a negative play. Don't get me wrong, but he's able to escape from it.
But he doesn't even have a moment to look down the field.
Look, play action. There's your fake. 1, 2, 3. He should be right now looking to set up and get still in the pocket, get tall in the pocket. Instead, he's already, oh shit, I got to get off platform.
Yeah, he sees 10 and he feels 56, and so he's
absolutely.
Yeah.
But the holes exist. And listen, this is the conversation we had before LSU game. We talked about it. As good as they are,
absolutely,
the holes exist. Mm-hmm. Can you protect? And Ole Miss did a phenomenal job in that game of holding up against that LSU defensive front. I do think this front is better. I don't think they're astronomically better, but I do think that they are better.
Which secondary is better, LSU or Oklahoma?
It's hard for me not to take those LSU safeties.
Yeah.
Very hard for me not to take those LSU safeties. Yeah. This is the very next play, okay? They're going to pressure him again, and they're going to run another zone blitz. They're going to blitz the 2 inside linebackers right here. Safeties are showing deep. It's going to end up again in a 1-high structure. There's another pressure. It's 52 again. Ends up with the sack. Again, if you can protect. Space
is open right there down the seam. Just a quick boom. Yeah.
If this is a post or a dig route and not a corner route, space. Venables is going to take chance. He trusts his guys to get there. He always has.
Yeah.
When they hold up, when you hold up against the rush, you can find windows to throw the football, but the key is this is a second or third and 14. You cannot get in these situations and expect to be successful.
Because they pin their ears back. Well, I mean, they're just coming after them. I mean, if you're watching this, you see it. If you're not watching and you're listening, I mean, Lenora Sellers has no time.
He is absolutely running for his life as soon as the ball snaps. This is the last one I want to show you from this game, and this is the one that made me say, you know what, I want to go watch the Auburn game. I saw what Keifin said. Everybody retweeted. I want to go watch it. This is the play that made me want to go watch it. Now, it's not an uncommon coverage versus this formation, so whatever. There's 4 wide receivers here, 2 to the right, 2 to the left if you're listening at home and not watching on YouTube. And the running back is deep, which often is going to indicate run. And so some type of inside run with a standard RPO, okay? Now, typically, some type of a screen on the perimeter or some type of hitch or something fast is what you're going to get from an RPO standpoint, okay? Now, he's going to recognize that the nickel is showing like he might pressure. So he decides he's going to go ahead and he's going to rip his screen out there, okay? They are playing that same 2 cut that I showed you earlier where the cornerbacks are going to be hella aggressive to go jump anything in the flat. They know that they're getting help over the top, okay? It is absolutely 100% the call to be in versus this play call because both of those corners have triggered before anybody else on the field has a chance to respond. There's no way the blocker's going to get there. The corner triggers. Now, the kid does a great job. The corner misses, but the safety's right there to make a tackle because they do tackle really damn well in space. But both of those corners are 100% sitting on this play call. Okay? Now, you want to talk about Lenora Sellers, the conversation I'm having in my film room, and again, I'm not pretending to be as smart as anybody calling plays in the SEC, But I'm asking my quarterback, I have one defender low over here, I have two defenders low over here, and I only have one blocker on each side. Even if he comes, why not just take the short throw to the boundary?
Right.
Right. That's the conversation I'd be having. And again, I don't want to get into a tangent. Again, South Carolina doesn't execute. Number 5 has to go right now and go get him.
But if he does, he has a play right there on the little, like, what do they call that?
There's a better chance. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. So again, that's just back to the sellers discussion, which is really not why we're here. But
I mean, but the point is, I mean, frankly, I know Mike Shula, I like him, but if you tell me that I've got one game to win, I'd rather have Keifin and Weiss than Shula.
1,000%.
Yeah,
and I don't mean that as a knock on Shula or anybody else. There's not many people in the country I would take over Keifin and Weiss. Quite honestly.
Yeah, sure.
But just right here, they're on top of the call. It's sound. It's they know what they're doing. Again, it's not an uncommon call versus that formation, but they're 100% on top of it. So I said, okay, I want to go watch it. Let's watch the Auburn game. So here's the one Keifin's talking about. Okay, very common formation. Ole Miss is going to line up in this formation on Saturday. All right, they're showing you a pressure box. They're showing man coverage from depth. That's often going to mean that this middle of the field safety has one of 3 responsibilities. He's either going to be man-to-man with the first thing out to that side, which typically you're not going to do from 12 yards deep. Okay? He's going to be a free player where he's high, cover 1 structure, or he's going to be a free player where he is a hole player. He is a rat, as they call it. And his job is to sniff out anything underneath. Now, if he's a rat, typically his entry is going to be a little bit more over the ball unless something takes him away. And I will say this. I do think that the path of the running back there did influence. The quarterback's eyes did influence that safety. But that kid with a wide split from the slot getting right to that slant window right now, it is elite coaching with elite instincts, or it's feeling really, really damn confident.
He knew what was coming.
Happen. I mean, that is 100%.
What was coming. Come on, look. Well, play it back. Play it back just full speed one time.
I'm going to play full speed from the top.
Coming. Watch.
Oh, he knows what's coming so much he damn near overruns it.
He jumped the route.
That's the reality. He absolutely jumped it, knew where that ball was going.
Yeah, come on.
And I mean,
he knew what was coming.
It's hard to say that he didn't. All right. Now, all that being said, because there's times, I mean, I just showed you 2 back-to-back examples of that type of thing. Okay. So here's another one. All right. They're going to motion a guy out, just like Georgia did last week to Ole Miss. Okay. And they're going to have an inside zone run called here, and they are going to have a screen on the perimeter. Now, the reality is right here, quarterback's got to see the blitz, and if he throws that ball, you have 2 guys in position to make a block, and you have a play. This is a bad read by the quarterback.
Yeah.
The quarterback, now, 2 off the edge, sometimes let's do the safe thing. Let's hand it out. If they're coming wide off the edge, you have a chance to hit underneath. But we talked about guys coming from depth, not standing at the line of scrimmage here. They are coming from depth. If the quarterback sees it, this time Oklahoma was not in the call they needed to be in.
Right.
Right? If they were in the call they needed to be in, you would have seen a trap, an immediate spin with a guy underneath, right? Or you'd have seen a peel. It's not where they wanted to be. So 100% of the time, they don't have every signal if they have them at all, right?
But Arnold makes a bad read here. Yeah.
But Arnold makes the read. He pulls it right now and spits the bubble out there. You got a chance for a play.
Yeah.
Okay. So again, they're not going to be right all the time. It's can you hold up front? Can you find the space?
Yep.
All right. Here's another example. Here's that umbrella again. 5 guys deep. The middle guy comes creeping down a little bit, okay? So they start in 3 high. They're going to end up in a cover 2 structure. There's one linebacker in the box. He is going to blitz, and this middle safety is going to now replace him. They're going to play cover 2, so these corners are going to be there to take anything immediately in the flat. So, two, it's really playing a little bit more like a palms, which I know is football lingo that not everybody understands. But both this corner and this safety are going to read this slot receiver. And if he shows anything fast to the flat right now, corner's going to take him. He's going to get eyes to number one. If that number two, if that slot receiver is vertical, or if that slot receiver is inside, he's going to take all of him, and now the corner's going to get eyes to one. So it's just a way of playing quarters that kind of allows you to blend cover two and quarters principles. All right. So they're going to blitz right here. They're going to show you like they're blitzing potentially 6 guys. The reality is only 4 come. They're going to bail both of those DNs out of there. And number 7 does a great job of getting back and getting underneath that slant route. Okay. But again, look at the corner here. And I want you to see him. He sees this slant look from the outside receiver. Watch him drive it and watch what opens up behind him on a double move right there. See the space?
So the running back picked up the blitz.
Lane Kiffin, the running back, did a phenomenal job picking up the blitz. And we've seen Kewan Lacey do a great job this year picking up the blitz. We know Lane Kiffin likes double moves, and I think you're going to see him early and often in this game.
Okay.
And I think they're going to build off of tendencies that Ole Miss has already shown.
Show me one more time.
This corner up top is 100% expecting the slant route. He drives it. When that receiver gets vertical again and goes right now, there's the window to throw the football.
Yep.
You can see it there. Okay. Again, do you protect it? Does the quarterback process it? Can you be
but he could have made the throw right there. He was
100%.
Yeah.
4-man rush, nothing exotic. He's got time here. Running back, phenomenal job in pass pro. Okay. I'm going to go to the next clip. I'm going to show you another double move. Okay. This is the very next play. Freeze. Somebody saw it. Go back to a double move. They're aggressive. We know they're aggressive. Okay. So they're going to get back to another double move look here. All right. Going to start. They're going to kind of max protect a little bit right here. All right. They're going to protect with 7 right here. They're going to get 3 guys out. Watch the outside receiver. He's going to kind of set the guy up outside, invite him out there, and then he's going to slip underneath him and get skinny to the seam or the skinny post right there. They're going to run an out route with this guy, and they're going to get somebody from the backfield. I believe it's this tight end in the flat. Basic flood concept. Ole Miss has 6 ways of getting to it, and that's maybe an understatement of how many ways. Watch the corner be aggressive, okay? And if the protection holds up, and again, it's a 4-man rush right there by Oklahoma, the receiver stops. If the receiver doesn't stop right there, boom, that's a corner with bad eyes being too aggressive. Safety's out of position. 100% should have been a big play for the Auburn offense.
Okay, so here's my – I'm interrupting way too much. I'm sorry. So in Ole Miss's arsenal with Chambliss at quarterback, is this play even available?
He doesn't have the arm strength Simmons has to push the ball down the field. We've seen Ole Miss throw a lot of verticals in the last few weeks with Chambliss in the offense, and a lot of them are almost intentionally looking underthrown balls, and it's resulted in pass interference calls in every game that's helped them. They've also made some really great plays. So, yeah, it's in the arsenal. Here's the one difference. Okay. Ole Miss likes throwing this to the short side of the field, even with Jackson Dart, even with Matt Corral, even with Austin Simmons. Okay. They don't like always putting this wide because it is a hell of a throw, okay? This ball in the middle of the field, I like that. Ole Miss here might put it into the boundary on the left side. Now, you reduce the amount of space that you have to operate, right? But absolutely, it's in the playbook. It's in the arsenal right there. Okay, here is another example, and this is the last clip I'm going to show you, but this is another double move. And you actually get them, I believe, on both sides, the top and the bottom of the screen here. Okay, let's start up top. Okay, same corner, I believe. All right. They're gonna again heavy protection right here. Another great blitz pickup by the running back with the linebacker coming from depth. Okay. They're gonna go hitch and go. They know they're aggressive. And the ball's a big play. It's a catch. The ball's late. If the ball's out in front, it's an even bigger gain right there. Okay. But absolutely a big play waiting to happen on the double move. I'm telling you, Lane Kiffin is going to dial up double moves if he thinks he's going to get aggressive corners, and they're going to play this one high with these corners out there on an island. Because even down here at the bottom, Guy just runs a comeback route. But you can see as soon as his hips shut down, the corner starts shutting down, again, ripe for double moves.
Yep.
The other thing, look at the pressure. Okay, max protect. Even if this is just a dig route by this receiver, the space exists. If the offensive line running backs can do their part and give the quarterback time, Ole Miss is going to find some success. If they can't, it is going to be a long day for the Ole Miss offense.
They've been pretty good up front lately in pass pro. And Lacey, I tweeted this the other day. I mean, I was having fun with the red hat guy because the game just lasted forever sometimes. But Kewan Lacey, man, a couple of different times stepped in and was just a beast in pass.
He's been phenomenal all year. And like, listen, I mean, I'm not an NFL scout, and I don't, he's a high grade for me, not just for the way he carries the football, but he catches the football. His pass protection's phenomenal. Like, he's shown versatility inside, outside. Like, to me, the kid is the numbers are off the charts.
He's fearless too.
The production may not be off the charts. The production's good, not off the charts.
But in today's
the body of work is phenomenal.
In today's football, you don't have a lot of home run hitters at running back. It's more about can you help me move the chains, and can you step in and put your hat in and give me pass protect and give my quarterback another beat to make a throw.
Yep. And that's how you become an every down back in the NFL.
Yeah.
Quite honestly. So
this thing, in your opinion, comes down to Ole Miss's offensive line versus Oklahoma's defensive line. Is that
I mean, look, the Ole Miss defense is going to have to get stops, period.
Sure.
Right. But ultimately, in my opinion, it is going to be much like, Ole Miss, 88 yards rushing on 20 some odd attempts last week. I'm going to be surprised if Ole Miss goes in there and just absolutely runs up and down the turf. Right. But I do think that they're going to find some ways to run the football. They're going to be creative about things that they do. But I do think that if they can give them time to throw the football, then I think Ole Miss certainly has an opportunity to be successful. I mean, I'll say this. I know there's been talk about Chambliss, and the kid was good last week.
Yeah,
Lane said it. The kid was good. Like, did he finish the way you wanted him to finish? No, but it wasn't all on him.
Yeah.
And he certainly missed a couple pitches. I showed you one that he sure as hell wants back. But the kid's been good. If they're protecting well and he's not getting it done, if Simmons is healthy, his live arm can give this type of secondary problems. So I'm not going to be shocked to see Simmons maybe in a little bit more of a planned role this week.
Yeah. I think he had a pretty big planned role last week, and Chambliss played so well early and they were going that they just stuck with it.
I kind of felt the same way during the game. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, so Pete, that was fantastic stuff, man. That was you're phenomenal at this every week, and that was as fascinating of one as I've seen. So I feel like I do this every week. I feel like I'm kind of like really prepared for what's coming. And Georgia was just doing all the screen stuff the other day, and I was like, I knew that was coming. And I think I tweeted it a couple of times. If you watched the show,
you did.
Not surprising. So I kind of feel like I know what I'm looking for on Saturday when I pull my binoculars out. Hey, thanks for the time as always. Great stuff. Thanks to our friends at RiverLand Roofing for sponsoring this. Obviously, week after week, we will be back next week. Ole Miss headed home for a 3-game homestand. There's no sense in sugarcoating it. We're either going to be talking about needing help elsewhere, or we're going to be talking about a team that simply just has to hold serve to get to 11-1 and maybe the SEC championship, but certainly hosting a playoff game. You can, if it makes you feel better, you can say this is just one of 12 on Saturday. If you want to be honest with yourself, it's a lot bigger than that. So we'll be back. We'll look at Ole Miss, Oklahoma in hindsight, and we'll look ahead to Ole Miss at home against the South Carolina Gamecocks. So for Pete DeWeese, I'm Neal McCready. Thank you for being part of this edition of Pete's Pigskin Preview here on MPW Digital. We will talk to you again next week. Take care.